There was once a miller who had a beautiful daughter, and when she was grown, he was anxious to make sure she was married and taken care of. He said to himself, "I think I will give her to the first suitable man that comes and asks for her hand." Not long after, a young man came calling. The miller couldn't find anything wrong with the young man, and so betrothed his daughter to him. But for some reason, the girl did not like her betrothed, not the way she should. Her instincts told her she could not trust him, and she could not even look or even think about him without disgust. One day the young man came to call on the girl and said, "You have not come to visit me at my home yet, even though we've been betrothed for a while now." The girl responded, I don't know where you live." "I live in the dark forest," he said. She tried to come up with excuses not to visit. She even told him she would not be able to find her way through the forest. Her betrothed ignored all of her excuses and said, "You must come this Sunday. I have already invited several guests. To make sure you do not get lost, I will throw ashes on the path." Finally, that Sunday arrived, and it was time for the girl to start on her way. But she started becoming very frightened and didn't know why. To make sure she could find her way back home, she filled her pockets with peas and lentils to sprinkle on the path. When she reached the entrance to the forest, she found that her betrothed did lay ashes to show her the way. She followed the path, throwing down peas as she went. She walked all day until she came to the deepest, darkest part of the forest. There she saw a lonely old house. It looked like nobody lived there. She walked inside the deadly silent house. There was no signs of people. Suddenly she heard a voice. Turn back, young maiden fair. Linger not in this murderer's lair." Looking around for the voice, she saw that a bird was in a cage hanging on the wall. Again the bird cried, turn back, young maiden fair. Linger not in this murderer's lair." The girl decided not to listen to the bird and walked from room to room looking for anybody. But she could not find anybody. Finally, she came to the basement, and there sat an old woman whose head kept shaking uncontrollably. "Can you tell me if my betrothed lives here?" the girl asked the old woman. "Ah, you poor child, what a place for you to come. This is a murderer's den. You think yourself a promised bride and that your marriage will soon take place. But it is with death that will keep your marriage feast. Look here. Do you see that large pot of water? I always must keep it on the fire. As soon as they have you in their power, they will kill you without mercy and cook and eat you. They are eaters of men. If I do not take pity on you and save you, you would be lost." The old woman led her behind an old cabinet and hid her from view. "Keep still as a mouse. Do not speak or move, or it will be over for you," said the old woman. "Tonight, when the robbers are asleep, we will leave together. I have been waiting a long time for a chance to escape." The old woman barely finished speaking when the robbers returned, dragging another young girl with them. They were all drunk and ignored her cries for help. They gave the girl some wine to drink, 3 full glasses. 1 white, 1 red, and 1 yellow, and then suddenly the girl's heart stopped and she fell dead. The robbers laid the girl on the table, tore off her clothes, and cut her body into pieces, sprinkling salt on it. The poor betrothed girl crouched behind the cabinet, trembling in fear as she witnessed, knowing that it was supposed to be her fate. One of the robbers noticed a gold ring still on the murdered girl's finger and tried to remove it, but it would not come off. So he took out a hatchet and cut her finger. The finger went flying across the room behind the cabinet into the frightened girl's lap. The robber then took a light and started looking for it, but he couldn't find it. "Have you looked behind the large cabinet?" said one of the others. The old woman suddenly cried out, "Come, eat your supper, and let the thing alone until tomorrow. The finger will not run away." "The old woman is right," said the robbers, and they stopped looking for the finger and sat down. The old woman then mixed sleeping potion into their wine. Before long, they were all lying on the floor of the basement, fast asleep and snoring. As soon as the girl was sure they were asleep, she came out from behind the cabinet. She stepped over the bodies of the sleeping robbers, all the while becoming more and more frightened that they would wake up. The girl made her way over the robbers, and she and the old woman went upstairs, opened the door, and as quickly as they could left the murderer's den. They found the ashes on the path had been scattered by the wind, but the peas and lentils had sprouted and grown up from the ground so that their vines would guide them in the moonlight along the path. They walked all night and finally reached the mill in the morning. Then the girl told her father all that had happened. The day of the wedding arrived, and the bridegroom came along with a large group of guests. The miller made sure to invite all his friends and relatives. At the wedding feast, each guest was asked to tell a tale. The bride sat still, not saying a word. "And you, my love, is there no tale you know?" said the bridegroom, turning to her. "Tell us something." "I will tell you about a dream I had," said the bride. "I went alone through the forest and came to a house. There was nobody in the house, only a bird in a cage on the wall, crying, 'Turn back, young maiden fair, linger not in this murderer's lair.' It said it 2 times. "My darling, this is only a dream," said the bridegroom. "I went through the house from room to room, but they were empty. Everything was so gloomy and dark. Finally, I went to the basement, and there sat a very old woman. She could not keep her head still. I asked her if my betrothed lived there, and she answered, 'You poor child, you've come to a murderer's den. Your betrothed does live here, and he will kill you without mercy, and afterwards cook and eat you.' My darling, this is only a dream." The old woman hid me behind a large cabinet, and then the robbers returned, dragging another young girl with them. They gave her 3 kinds of wine to drink, one white, red, and yellow, and with that she died. My darling, this is only a dream." They then tore her clothing off and cut her body into pieces and sprinkled salt on it. My darling, this is only a dream. And one of the robbers saw that there was a gold ring on the girl's finger. It was hard to pull off, so he took a hatchet and cut it. But the finger flew into the air behind the large cabinet and into my lap. "And here is the finger with the ring," said the bride, pulling out the finger and showed it to the guest. The bridegroom grew very pale and tried to make his escape, but the guest caught him. Each guest then took turns and cut up the bridegroom into pieces, and then they went to the house of the robbers and set it on fire, burning alive all the evil robbers.